the deliverable for next session. But I guess maybe we'll take 1 or 2 minutes before I begin for any questions in general about what's been going on so far, the process.
Dá, a gente já põe. Pode deixar o áudio quick.
No, any questions?
No.
Okay, then we'll keep going. So first, let's review some of the information on need specifications, and then we'll talk a little bit about need criteria. So these next few slides you guys have seen from last time. If you remember, the need statements articulate the problem and the change in outcome that is required to satisfy the clinical dilemma, or in any case, the healthcare dilemma, and in your specific case, the antimicrobial resistance dilemma. So in terms of need scoping, what is the problem? Does the core issue require better definition? Are there adjacencies that should be explored? In terms of the population, does the target audience require segmentation? Does it require more focus? Are there larger and maybe less focused, and are there more specific, smaller populations? And in terms of the outcome, does the desired result require clarification? Is it meaningful to the target population, and can it be measured? So those are all three very important. I think this is a very good, very straightforward way to approach the need statement and the questions around scoping your need statement. And I gave you guys some feedback this morning on your ranked number one need statement to the teams that sent them last week. So please take a look at that. And if you have any questions or comments, definitely shoot me an email. Next, we're going to talk about need specifications. And this is going to go into your deliverable for the next session. So there's basically 4 main areas that we look at when we're evaluating a need. One is the fundamentals. And in medicine, we talk about disease state fundamentals. But if we're talking outside of medicine, like at the wastewater treatment plant or on a farm, it's about the fundamentals of the problem. What are the problem fundamentals? So what is the characteristics of the problem? What causes the problem? What are the results of the problem? Just understanding all of the pieces of the problem. In medicine, it's about the anatomy, the mechanism of action, how does the disease manifest, what are the root causes of the disease, is it genetic, is it environmental, and so on. Really breaking down the fundamentals is the first step. And then we can go either around the circle in either direction, but we can talk about existing solutions. So how are people trying to solve this need today? Are there any solutions? And I'll tell you this, there's always something someone's trying to do. It may not be a product or a technology, it might be a procedure or a protocol or just a way of doing things. Sometimes they're using products or technologies from a different industry or a different field in the one that they're doing there. So understanding what are the existing solutions, how much do they cost, how effective are they ineffective? Do they introduce other risks, safety risks, or other challenges? Are there other barriers to using these solutions? Understanding what those are and the limitations, and also the strengths. What works well with the existing solutions is really important as you look at your, moving forward. Because maybe there are really good solutions out there. They're just very expensive, for example, and they just are inaccessible to most, people that have the need. Or there could be some solutions, but they just don't work that well. So understanding that is a really important next step. And then we talk about market analysis. So market analysis in the sense of what is the economic cost of this need? And what are the markets for the existing solutions in some senses? If they're, if it's very well defined, how many of the existing solutions are sold per year? How much money is spent on existing solutions? For example, if you have a procedure to prevent infection in the hospital, but how much money is spent on that procedure? How many nurses are required to do it? What's the investment that's being made in the whole field, not just one hospital, but across all hospitals or farms or facilities, and how much are they investing in trying to address this need? That's what you're trying to look for there. You're not trying to think of your solution yet, but just how much money is being spent on the need, and how is it broken down? How is it segmented? How much is being spent, in big hospitals versus small hospitals, and how are they dealing with the solutions differently? So understanding the market analysis is really important, and then finally stakeholder analysis. This is, I think, one of the most important pieces. Stakeholder analysis is really who is affected by this need, who has the need, who would benefit from solving the need, who has a decision-making ability when it comes to solving the need. Is it the government? Is it other private companies? Is it public-facing companies? Is it specific individuals? Is it doctors? Is it employees at the wastewater facility? Is it actual producers, or is it actual the people? Is it patients? Do the people have to vote on certain solutions that might go to effect in their community? So is it the general population? Well, they're impacted by it. Are there, and actually, since we're talking about antimicrobial resistance, well, who are the non-human stakeholders? Animals, the environment, and how are they, affected by the need or by the solution? Now, they can't obviously make the decisions about it, but they can be affected by it, and understanding those effects is important. So really, it's about understanding the decision makers and who are going to be impacted by the need or by the solution. So any questions on this? In the last presentation, I gave a lot more detail in terms of each of the categories and what they, what they could be, and where to research and how to find more research. So you can look back to that previous presentation for more information on these. And then about getting into the need specification. So, this is once you've dialed in, so once you've selected your need that you're going to be working on for the rest of this course, how do you then dive into it? So, doing some need exploration, talking to customers and stakeholders, observing the problem in different settings. So maybe you saw it in one setting, maybe you go to a different facility and see it somewhere else and see how they handle it. You basically want to become an expert in the problem and think about the related costs to the system. You want to do more research and validation. You want to confirm that there really is a need. You saw it in one place and maybe one person's opinion, or maybe some reading you had, but you want to continue to validate that. Is it really a need across the industry? How big is the need? Is it just a need in this one region or state? Is it just in Paraná, or is it across Brazil, for example? So understanding the need and the scope of the need is really important. So talking to key opinion leaders, who's the expert in this field? Can you have access to them? Can you reach out to them? Test your assumptions. Look at the literature and the solution landscape. So again, part of what we talked about in the last slide. Fully understand the cycle of care and the flow of money. So this is specific in medicine, but it can be applied outside as well. You want to follow the patient. Follow the patient as they're getting admitted to the hospital, if they're being treated in other hospitals outside of Brazil, in other countries, the doctors, the nurses, all the people involved in the care of that patient. And then the flow of the money. So who's paying for it? The patient pays out of pocket. How much money is coming from insurance, from the healthcare system? How much is the hospital spending? How much is the hospital losing money if they're losing money? Where does the money come from? And then money goes to companies that sell products, like pharmaceutical companies or diagnostic testing companies, the lab. So you want to follow how the money flows there as well. And then you want to prioritize the opportunities according to their market size and impact. So again, we talked about how to rank the needs. And you want to rank them based on the impact and the potential opportunity that you can address. And then we want to develop need criteria. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this for the rest of the presentation today. You want to define specific criteria for that need that reflect the must-haves and nice-to-haves requirements of customers and other stakeholders. So basically, we have two criteria. Must-have means that in order to meet the need, these are absolute requirements. And then we have nice-to-have, which nice-to-have means it would be really, really great if you could solve those criteria, but it's sort of extra credit. It's above and beyond the core fundamental need. And it's a way for us to stratify what are the priorities in terms of the requirements for any solution that you develop. And again, this is independent of the solution. So we haven't thought about solutions yet. We're just focused on needs. And then the development of the needs specification. And so we're going to talk about this, but the needs specification is the needs statement, the background, all the research we talked about. and the description of the need criteria. So this is really where the rubber meets the road, as we say, where the need starts to become the core fundamental elements that will help you lead to your invention or your solution. So writing the specifications where all of your research comes together, summary of what you've learned, and your guide for moving forward. It's a document that includes the need statement, the background on the disease, stakeholder and market evidence, and the description of the market-validated need criteria. So we'll talk more about that. So what are need criteria? Need criteria define what any new solution to the need must offer to satisfy the most important stakeholders. We talked about must-haves and nice-to-haves. So the need criteria is based on data gathered from research about the need in the market, helps define practical considerations, the acceptable duration of procedure, how much should the procedure cost, the preferred workflow, for example. It should be quantitative and measurable based on benchmarks from your own need research. The must-have criteria sometimes feel like they belong in the need statement. For example, if you say a way to do something faster, then sometimes you put simpler or cheaper or easier, then you might want to try to put them all into the need statement as well. But really, you should only have the most important metric in the need statement, and the other metrics can be listed as criteria. So we should target 6 to 8 total need criteria, otherwise you'll have too many constraints, and it'll be really difficult to find a solution. So while some need criteria may specify product attributes, these should be kept at a pretty high level, such as small versus can be placed percutaneously. This is for a medical device, but try to be kind of more high level than versus very, very specific. That being said, you want to have your criteria be quantifiable. Again, this is a really important consideration. So here's an example. This is from a solution that actually was developed at Stanford. It was a way to treat night terrors. These are kind of like nightmares, but very, very severe nightmares in children in order to decrease nights without night awakening. So the must-haves is that they wanted to decrease the number of nights with a night terror episode by 50%. So this is a really nice criteria because it's very specific. They were decreasing the number of nights with night terror episodes by 50%, and it's measurable. It says by 50%. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How would they have determined that they should do it by 50%? Anyone have thoughts on that? How could you figure out, how do you know, should I do it by 50%? Why would they pick 50% here? Any thoughts? Or how would you come up with a number there? Anybody?
Hi, Javi. I don't know why 50% here, but usually I have an epidemiology background, and usually when we are doing some calculations, we consider 50% just as a specific number when we don't know the quantity or when we don't know the incidence in a population. So usually we would go for 50%, but here I don't know if they are considering the same way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're saying like if 50% is kind of a nice number, it's big, it's meaningful, it seems like it's a big. It seems like it's a pretty big effect. If it was 10%, it might not be meaningful enough, and if it's 100%, it might be too hard. Is that what you're saying?
Also yes, but it's kind of, if it works, it's a yes, and if it doesn't work, it's a no. If it's 50-50, right?
Yep. So, yeah, that's could be one method that they did it. They kind of just said, hey, let's do 50%, kind of halfway. Other ways they could, and so actually, I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know how they came up with 50%. But the rationale, just to think through the logic, ways that you could do it is either you do what you said. I think that's actually not a bad idea. Or you could talk to experts or actual customers. You could say, look, you're a parent. You have children who has night terrors. How much of a reduction would be meaningful to you? And do a survey, right, with actual customers. Because remember, it's about, the need criteria are about what's impactful for the stakeholders. So if the parents say, if I can do it by cutting in half, that would be meaningful for me, then that's a meaningful metric for you to use. Alternatively, what you could use here is benchmark yourself against competitors. If there are other solutions that are existing that can do it by 25% or 30%, maybe you say, we have to be better than the other solutions, so we have to be 50%. So that could be another way to determine that metric of 50%. It's somewhat arbitrary to determine what that number is, but it's good to put an estimate of what that criteria means for success. So let me ask you guys a follow-up question. If you achieved if you developed a product, a technology that does this, but it only reduced the number of nights with night terror episodes by 45%, not 50%, is that a successful product? Sorry?
Yes.
Well, it is a successful product at 45%, but according to your own need criteria, you did not meet your criteria. You required 50%. So in essence, you failed your own objective, and you should probably not keep going. You should probably quit the project or try something else, because you've said for yourself, I have a must-have. So again, this is a must-have here. I must have an achievement of 50%. So take these numbers very seriously. If you're going to put them here, what is the hard criteria? If it's less than $150, okay, if it's $155, $160, is that okay? Not according to you. You said $150 is the metric. It has to be less than $150. So if you can't achieve that, it's not going to be a successful product according to your own criteria. So again, I know you guys didn't come up with this criteria, but this is where it's must have. So you must meet this. So be very, very critical when you come up with these criteria. But you have to come up with really well-defined criteria. Results are achievable within a month. So if it takes 2 months, that means this did not meet the criteria. Again, so you want to have this well-defined. If you think there's some wiggle room, like for example, it could be 45%, it could be 40%. Figure out, the question here is, what is that threshold and how do you define it? Maybe it's not that it has to be a certain percentage. Maybe it just has to be better than something else. And so you can do a head-to-head study to say, this has to be an improvement over something else. You don't have to define the number, but we have to define the criteria in a way that we can actually measure it. So that's really the most important step. And if you have something that you aren't sure about what the hard requirement is, you can put it here in the nice to have. So say, for example, you said, we have to be better, the must have is we have to be better than a competitor. And we can test that in a study. But the nice to have is that we have to be better than 50%. That means you don't have to be, you could be 45%. You didn't meet your nice to have as long as you meet your must to have. Is there a question in the audience?
Yes, Javi, for example, in our must have, are we allowed to use, so for example, decrease number of nights with night terror episodes at least by 50%? Can I use like expressions like at least or something that, I don't know if it leaves like more or less something not concrete, but are we allowed to use that? Or in the nice to have part?
So I'm not sure I understood you. So you're saying can you be something less concrete? Is that what the question?
No, for example, if I want to say that if you decrease the numbers by at least 50%, can we use this kind of expressions? So for example,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. As long as it's defined, very well defined. So if you said by at least 50%, that means it could do it by 60%, right? Or 75%.
Well, yeah, and then if it does,
then that would be success for me. That makes sense. But if it's 45 or 49%, If it's 49%, maybe we could negotiate on the 49%. But if it's 45 or 40%, then it's like, well, why didn't we say 50% from the beginning? We should have defined criteria that we really, really were serious about instead. And so that's where the must-haves have to be very, thoughtful in terms of how you define them. The nice-to-haves is where you have a little more wiggle room. The nice-to-have is like, this is the ideal product. If we don't get it exactly, that's okay, as long as we have the must-haves. So you have the two categories here for you guys to use for the definition of the criteria. So, and I expect, I think given in today's environment more than ever before, especially in the US even, but definitely everywhere in the world, cost should be a must-have. You should always have some kind of cost metric in your must-have criteria, because I think this is one of the most important measures. It doesn't have to be the first must-have, but it should be somewhere there. The first must-have is usually related to the outcome you've listed here. So say, for example, they say, decrease nights without night awakening. That's really their target outcome in their needs statement, right? So their first must-have is that. How do you define that? How many nights do you have to decrease? That's the question. And they're saying by 50%. So, and again, this is variable, right? If a kid has 20 nights, after introducing your solution, they have to have 10 nights. But if the kid only has 4 nights, now you have to reduce it by 2 nights. Or if they have 30 nights, it has to go down by 15 nights. So it's relative. It's not an absolute. It's not an absolute number. It's a relative reduction. So again, you can use anything that's mathematically objective and definable is what we're looking for here, and it should reflect the needs statement, and then what else you think, and you decide as a team what is the most important elements after that. So, any questions on this before I move on? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. If you guys have questions, you can email me or send me a WhatsApp message anytime, okay? Okay, so, sorry?
Ravi,
Yes,
can you hear?
yes.
Your voice is gone.
Hello? I can hear you.
We cannot hear you. Okay. Oh,
Hello, hello, hello.
can you hear us?
I can hear you.
I can hear you. We can't.
Hello, hello.
Just a minute, Javi. We're trying to do something. Guilherme is operating here.
Okay, let me try to turn my video off. Hello, can you hear me now?
Será que foi alguma coisa lá? Caiu?
Eu pedi pra ele tentar desligar e desmutar e mutar de volta o microfone dele. Tá vendo tão bem?
Pois é. Vamos ter que ligar no WhatsApp, senão. Qual o WhatsApp?
Ele corrigiu só o nosso primeiro.
Pois é. Vou perguntar pra ele.
Foi.
De todo mundo. De todo mundo.
Ah, tá.
Ah, eu vi que ele mandou, no e-mail ele mandou 2. Não sei os outros 4, eu não recebi e-mail. Vocês viram na academia médica se tinha comentários lá?
Não, tem
só no e-mail, né?
Só no e-mail.
Eu vou perguntar pra ele. Que engraçado, né? Cara? De repente, cortar.
pede pra ele voltar?
Com esse teto que eu vi. Isso, viu?
Não. No sound.
No. You can hear.
We still have no sound. Quer falar pra ele ligar no WhatsApp? Eu vou chamar ele no WhatsApp.
Puta, afasta o microfone normal.
É, né?
Será que não tô falando?
Mas não pode ser o microfone.
Não, falo dele.
É,
Que
então.
falha às vezes, porque
Pois
não
é.
tem que falhar com
Na
dois
outra
programas,
vez.
com dois.
Outra vez, é.
Talvez ele esquente, sei lá, aconteça
É.
qualquer coisa.
E lembra que voltava a funcionar?
Sim. Faz sentido.
Agora eu vou precisar destruir isso aqui no nome. Fala pra ele que eu tô chamando ele no WhatsApp, por favor.
Vocês já assinaram a lista?
16 pessoas estando, né?
Eu acho que eu assinei 3 vezes a lista.
Tenta ligar também.
Ravi? Yes. Now, let's go back
Now I
to
can hear.
WhatsApp.
Que ninguém avisa, né?
Okay, no problem.
Just a minute, we're putting the presentation on. Okay, we're ready to go here.
Okay, great. Okay, so the comparison here is between needs specification and product specification. Probably, if any of you have worked in the industry before, you may have heard this phrase product specification. But they're very different from a needs specification. The needs specification is the guiding document for concept generation, which we're going to talk about next. The product specification is the guiding document for product development, which is once you've identified a concept, you keep to develop it further. The needs spec is market need validated, while the product spec is user validated. The needs specification is solution agnostic. Again, it doesn't matter what the solution is. While the product specification is specific to a solution. So right now we're focusing on needs specification.
All right.
So we're going to talk about great. So I'm going to now spend the next 25 minutes talking about concept generation. But part of your deliverable for the next phase is we're going to ask you to generate need criteria as along with the need specification components for your selected need. How many teams have selected their final need so far?
I think they're waiting for the feedback from you. Since they sent you 10 needs, I don't know if they already decided. How about you guys? Could you tell us? Do you have one specific, the most important needs already selected? No, it's kind of general, Javi. They don't have the main needs selected already.
Yeah, we don't hear it.
Okay, I sent feedback this morning on just the top need, the top one need. If you guys want me to look at other needs,
Send them to me by today, and I'll have them in the next few days and send you guys feedback.
Okay, that would be great.
But we have to select a final need by the next session. So in 2 weeks, we'll have to select your final need as well as have the first initial concepts. So we are gonna have to accelerate a little bit here to make sure we have everything prepared for the end of the session. So I'm going to talk about concept generation next, which will give you guys a taste of what that is, and you guys can test it out today after this lecture. But we'll have kind of just an introduction here, and we'll start to talk about concepts as well. So, but the concept generation is only when you've selected your need. And you can actually, I take that back, you can have this, you could do this on 2 needs or 3 needs. And decide, hey, we like this concept the best, so we're going to focus on this need, even if the need was your number 2 or number 3. Maybe you like the concept better, so you can move forward with that concept. But by the end, by 2 weeks from now, we're going to ask you guys to have selected your final need and your at least semi-final, doesn't have to be final concept. And concept generation is oftentimes called the fun part of this process. Need is always the hard part. Need research, need statements is the hard part. But concept generation is the fun part. So concept generation is a form, is basically what we call ideation. That's basically generating ideas. And there are many methods that can do this, and we've just listed some here. But the most common one that we usually talk about is called brainstorming. Have all of you guys participated in brainstorming in the past?
Yes.
Yeah, most of them.
Okay, so do you guys all know the rules of brainstorming?
Oh.
Okay, great. So we're gonna do some review of the rules because it's not meant to be a free-for-all. A brainstorm is actually a focused activity, and having rules can make it more efficient and more productive, actually. So what is brainstorming? A semi-structured, team-based approach to rapid idea generation. So really, the key words here are semi-structured. So it's not, like I said, totally free-for-all. There are some rules and there's some structure to it. It's team-based. So you generally are trying to add the ideas of several people, and that's where you generate even new, more creative ideas by bringing those people together. And then lastly, it's a rapid idea generation, so it's meant to be fast. It's not meant to be, and to be fast, you have to basically not have any kind of criticism or judgment happening, and we'll talk about that in this slides. So again, brainstorming is to generate a maximum innovation potential in a short amount of time, incorporate different perspectives, so different people on the team. You can build excitement with brainstorming so that you can get more kind of enthusiasm and motivation. And then finally, to gain alignment and share ideas. So here's a team doing some brainstorming on the train. So they called it trainstorming. And this is very typical, you put the ideas on these Post-it notes. I don't know if you guys have these supplies, Marcelo, but it might be nice for a session to get these supplies for the brainstorming session. Or if they have at least access to a whiteboard with markers, that's okay too, if they don't have the Post-it notes.
Yeah, they do have access to the whiteboard, but Post-it, I don't think they have it.
Okay, whiteboard is fine, as long as they have enough pens for everyone.
Okay.
So the first step is to warm up. So you see here, warming up is very important across any activity that's going to be intense. And so if you're going to play football, you have to warm up your body, but if you want to brainstorm, you have to warm up your mind. So it helps you transition from being analytical and critical. Those are not useful. Analysis and criticism is not useful in a brainstorm. But instead, you are being generative and non-judgmental. So you want to not hold back. Just let all the ideas out. So how do we warm up? You can use quick activities, visual exercises, games. And so, actually, do you guys all get that worksheet?
Yeah, we got here. I didn't spread to them. Just a minute. Guilherme's helping me hand out to them.
Okay. Okay, so you're gonna get a worksheet with 30 circles on it. And what I want you guys all to do is to use the circle, draw something in the circle using the circle as part of the drawing. And I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes here. And I want you guys to fill out as many of the circles as you can. Okay?
Okay, just a minute. So when we are ready to start, I'll tell you. We're just passing the sheets to the students, to the fellows.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me see. I'm going to try to share a clock here.
É que acho que o som fica pior também. Já aqui lá.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you guys see this timer?
Yes,
On the
yes.
screen here?
Yes. We do see it.
Okay.
Ready?
Is everyone ready?
What do we need to do? To draw?
Ready?
Can
set.
wait. Can you tell them once again what they should do and what are the rules? They're not.
Yeah, you wanna. Okay, there's only one rule. Draw as many ideas as you can using the circles on your worksheet.
Desenhe
There are
quantas,
no other rules besides that.
desenhe quantas ideias você quiser usando os círculos que estão aí no quadrado.
Ideias relacionadas ao nosso tema ou qualquer coisa?
Não. Qualquer coisa. Qualquer coisa. Okay, we're ready.
Okay, ready, set, go.
Qualquer coisa vem na cabeça de vocês. Não. Bom, it's up to you, boy. Do you? All right, there you go. They were suggesting you to use the speaker so you don't need to hold your tongue.
Yeah, thanks. I think the audio is a little better.
Como assim conectar na internet? Trinta e seis, 34. Vai, Ravi. Yes. Almost there.
Okay, we've got 5 seconds.
3 seconds, 2 seconds. Bam!
Okay. Pencils down.
Isso, meu porquinho ficou tão feio.
Alright. Let's see here. Go back to
Não
this.
lembrou do porquinho?
Eu lembrei do porquinho.
Where's over there? Okay. So this idea again, it's just to kind of open up your mind. This exercise, it can be a useful way to kind of just practice. And drawing actually, the reason why we do the drawing is because in brainstorming, we like you guys to be visual. Try to draw the idea. Don't just write text, but draw the concept, draw the diagram, draw pictures. It helps oftentimes think of the ideas. So how many of you guys used at least 10 circles?
There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in the room.
How many people are total?
We are in 15. So 6 people.
Okay, so about 1/3.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
More than 10. How about more than 15?
Wow. 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4.
Okay, how about more than 20?
20. More than 20. 2 of them hit 20. Not more than 20.
Okay, very good. What about 25?
No one more than 20. 20 is the highest. How many? 21. There's one person that hit 20.
Nice.
Okay, so you want to use these visual exercises, games. You guys see here, this guy used up many circles in one drawing here. He kind of cheated, but it's about being creative. So that's okay. He's being very creative here. He did a bicycle. I like the bicycle. 2 wheels. It's pretty clever. So you want to get in the mindset of paying attention to your teammates as well and building off their ideas. So this doesn't have the slide for that. There's actually a game that I want to play with you guys. Well, maybe we won't have time for it. Maybe we'll try it next session. But there's some more games that we can play to help with brainstorming that really helps you kind of build off the ideas of others. In fact, maybe, hold on a second. I have 10 minutes here. Let me see if I can find a slide. 1 second here, guys. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Okay, this is on the fly slide creation. Okay. So we're gonna play this quick warm-up exercise, okay? And we're trying to use the whole rest of the time here, because this can often take a while, but have you guys all played this game rock, paper, scissors before?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So what we want you guys to do is we want you all to stand up. So you guys can do that right now. So just stand up. Okay. Time to wake up. Time to get past the siesta. Wake up. And then we want you guys to find an opponent to play rock, paper, scissors. I think you guys call it Jack and Paul.
Jack and Paul. Something like that.
Jack and Paul. So if you play the game, okay, you play the game only one time, okay? Don't do best out of 3. Just play one time. If you lose, you're no longer playing, so you're out of the game, you're out of the tournament. But you have to follow the person that you just lost to, and you have to cheer for them. You become their biggest fan, okay? You have to cheer them on.
Really cheer.
And if you win, you have to really cheer. Support, you're the biggest supporter. If you win, you have to find someone else who's still in the game, okay? And then, if the person you're cheering for, if they lose, you have to support the person that beat them now. You become the fan of the person that they lost to, okay? So, eventually you should build a following as this goes on. And then you play until we have a final winner, okay?
Okay. We're gonna leave the microphone on.
Okay, so I'll give you guys, we should be able to play this in about 90 seconds. Okay, I'll give you guys 90 seconds to finish this tournament.
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Go. Go.
Yeah. Okay, go.
Cheers.
useful, but the reason why this idea is a good representation of brainstorming exercise is because you have to be very competitive at first. And I think brainstorming is a little bit competitive. You want to have a good idea. You want to come up with good ideas you can. But if you lose a round, you have to be able to support your teammate's idea immediately. So you have to change your mind and support their idea. And I think brainstorming is really about having both the competition, but also the support and building on your teammates. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the rules in the next few slides. So, anyways, here are the brainstorming rules. Okay, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but if you guys have questions, you guys can ask. So, the first rule is to defer judgment. So again, you don't want to criticize the ideas yet. You want to hold back any negative energy and just be positive. And the way I think about this is that if someone has an idea that really is a dumb idea or doesn't make any sense, but maybe it's a really cool idea, like it would be magical or it would really help if it could be possible, but it just seems not feasible. It seems impossible. Your job is not to criticize it yet. You can criticize it later. But in the moment, your job is to figure out how can I make that idea possible? What would have to be done to make it possible? Build off the idea. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. Yeah, so anyway, that's my thought there. So go for quantity. The best way to have a good idea is to have a lot of ideas. Usually if you have 3 or 4 people, in about 15 minutes, you should be able to generate 100 ideas easily. Okay? So you want to go for quantity. And that's why you can't judge yourself. You want to encourage the crazy ideas, actually. You want to encourage wild ideas. Because sometimes when someone has a very absurd idea, it can trigger another idea in someone else that actually is a really good idea. And so if you held back to that crazy idea, you would never have triggered the good idea in your teammate. So you just have to let it all out there. Don't worry about being judged. Again, you want to build on the ideas of others. I think for me, this is the most important thing. Oftentimes a brainstorm is very schizophrenic. You jump from one idea to some other idea to some other idea. What is most useful is to have the ideas flow together. So if someone comes up with an idea, first build on their idea. How do you add to it? And only when it's completely exhausted, then move on to a new idea. So you want to build off of it, and it's when the group, the additions of the group can be more valuable than the individual parts, the sum of the total. So think about that part. And to think about this, just try to think about how to be very specific. So someone has a general idea. Oh, we need, what if you had a way to, what if you had a sensor in every, hospital or in every doorway that could detect bacterial infection? Well, how would you actually get that to work? How do you have what's in the doorway? How's it powered? How does the sensor work? Trying to figure out how do you get the ideas to actually work, and that will help you trigger more and more ideas on how to build off of that idea. One conversation at a time. This is just about being polite, really. It also helps you maintain momentum. If you're focused on one conversation, then you're not kind of scattered against in all these different directions, and you're focusing in one area. You want to be visual. So like I said earlier, it's drawing the idea, sketching the idea, instead of just talking about it, will help with the brainstorm process. What I actually like here is that sometimes you draw an idea, and it's, for people that are scared of being bad drawers, that's okay. Because sometimes you draw something, it actually might trigger an idea in someone else that's not related to your idea because the drawing is not good, but it might trigger some other idea in them based on your drawing. So that happens all the time. You want a headline, so you want to capture the essence of the idea and then move on. You don't want to have these lengthy speeches about your idea. You want to build off of everyone in the group, so you should be kind of bouncing on the whole group and don't just have one person talking continuously for more than 10 seconds or 5 seconds. So again, these are the commandments of the brainstorming, and we're going to have you guys practice some brainstorming after this session on your own. So one expert, what I call a pro tip, basically, if you want to go, if you need help thinking about how to brainstorm, break down the problem. Because sometimes you have these kind of broad need statements. It's kind of a scoping. In essence, what we're trying to do here is scope the need to a level where you can start to brainstorm. I'll give you guys a couple of examples here very quickly. This is a need statement that's about glaucoma based on the company that I worked for previously. And so it's a way to reduce the pressure in patients with glaucoma to reduce the dependence on hypotensive medications, okay? So again, we're reducing pressure in glaucoma patients, and the outcome is to reduce the dependence on medication. So here's a pathophysiology diagram of how glaucoma works. I'm not going to go into this, but ultimately these lead to two different pathways. Either there's too much fluid being made in the eye, or there's too much fluid retained in the eye. It's not escaping, it's not leaving the eye. And both of those will lead to increases in pressure and lead to glaucoma. So if you look at ways to increase the aqueous humor formation, so how do we decrease the aqueous humor formation? How do we do that? So aqueous, the fluid is made in this part of the eye here, and it flows in here to the front of the eye where it's drained out of here. So this is where the fluid is made. So there's actually a company that tried to do this. They developed a laser device that destroyed this tissue here, or at least injured it, so that it made less fluid. And that reduction in the fluid formation helped to lower the pressure inside the eye. That's this company. They had a whole technology developed for that. But what if we did this route? What if we wanted to address the retention of fluid? So this means the fluid is, not that we're worried about how it's made, but that it's not escaping. It's stuck in the eye. It's not, it's basically a block, a clog, if you will. If you think of a plumbing analogy in like your bathroom, for example, the toilet's clogged, right? So again, here's the diagram, the toilet, this is where the fluid drains. It's clogged here because there's usually what happens is there's some kind of buildup of some debris, cells are blocking the drainage. So you can develop a shunt. So you basically have a tube here that bypasses the block and allows for fluid to flow out. So this is actually that's the company I worked for, called Transcend Medical. So again, you can think about the process of what causes the problem and then brainstorm around different parts of it. So what about something that's not so anatomical? What about a way to detect a rhythm disturbance? So again, this is medical, but heart disturbances in non-hospitalized patients with an arrhythmia, so with a heart problem. So here's a typical flow of a patient. It's usually this is why patients don't get checked, because they have such a long, complicated process. First they feel something, they either don't do anything or there's no detection, but then they see their primary care doctor, the PCP we call it here, who then refers to the cardiologist. The cardiologist has to refer to another specialist, the electrophysiologist. Then they do this monitor and you have to put on all these wires. So basically, what if you focus on the PCP, the primary care doctor, and try to identify this part of the process and say, how can we enable the PCP to detect rhythm disturbances? And that actually enabled this idea. This idea came out of this need, saying we're going to develop a very simple way to measure this that even a nurse can put this on. Not even need a doctor. You can just have a technician put this on. And this company became iRhythm, which has been a very successful company that came out of Stanford. So again, breaking down the problem into different parts can be very, 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 very powerful. So let's see how many slides we have here left. So, okay, I've got quite a bit. So I'm going to try to finish in 10 minutes, okay, guys?
Okay.
Any questions on that so far?
No.
On the brainstorming part?
No, go ahead.
We're going to have you guys practice this next. So then after you brainstorm, then the hardest thing then is you have all these ideas. We said 100 ideas. How do you then review and document all this? It's as important as the brainstorming as it is to review and document all the ideas. You want to make sure that there's concrete solutions that have been identified, not just general approaches. If you have general ideas, you should go back and brainstorm more around the general ideas to get them to be more concrete, more specific. you want to cluster the ideas, organize them into similar categories. What's the most meaningful organizing principle? Is it by the engineering area, by the mechanism of action, by the location, by the feasibility? We want to experiment with different approaches as needed, and you can see where the gaps are. So, for example, here's a map. Can be useful, concept map. So you can kind of have different categories. Here are different, types of ideas, and you can see, like, actually we have, maybe we don't have enough ideas in this area, so we can go back and brainstorm here in this section. So this can be something that is a way to organize your ideas. And it requires some work, though. This requires a lot of work. You can identify any obvious gaps, any biases. Are you guys leaning towards one area versus other areas? Do you have any other approaches, or do you have specific solutions that you're ready to work with? Anything that's in common, anything that you can combine ideas. Sometimes you can have different ideas at different times, but actually they might work together. So can you combine them or make them complementary to make new ideas after that? So again, like I said before, maybe this is underdeveloped, so you want to develop that further, or you want to combine these two ideas together. So just to give you guys some examples. Then you want to compare your concepts, ideally, not all of them because it's going to take way too long, but your top concepts, you compare them against the need. So you have 5 concepts here, here are your need criteria. Does the concept plus, does it meet the need? Does it minus, does it not meet the need? Or in many cases, you'll have a question mark. I'm not sure if it will meet the need. Then it's the question of what research do you have to do to identify whether or not you're going to meet the need at a later point. So the question marks oftentimes will be, very, very common early on. But as you move forward with the process, you should be trying to answer those questions and try to figure out how do we answer this question. Maybe you have to do a study ultimately to answer the question. But can you create some kind of analogous representation? Can you find an old study that did something similar and it got similar results, for example? That's very often done in medical technology. You look at historical studies that use a similar approach, and you say that it's we're gonna have a similar result as that. So do you need to do additional research? Do you need to start doing prototyping? We're gonna talk about prototyping in the next session. You need expert input. Talk to physicians, talk to scientists, talk to experts in the industry. If you have too few solutions, you might need to go back to brainstorming. You need additional ideation. If you have too many solutions, maybe your criteria aren't refined enough. Maybe they're not hard enough. Maybe you made the criteria too easy. So you need to make the criteria a little bit more difficult. That makes it you're able to filter your ideas more effectively. So again, idea selection. So again, we started with 100 ideas. Then we said you're going to evaluate your top ideas. But how do you even get to the top ideas? And one of the things about brainstorming is that oftentimes people will brainstorm, come up with all these great ideas, but then they'll just pick the easy one. They'll say, the most feasible. This is going to be the most practical. And they kind of abandon the kind of crazy ideas that could be breakthrough. They could be like revolutionary, but they sound really hard, so you just kind of abandon them. So one of the things to do to keep those ideas in the portfolio, keep them under consideration until you do more research, because maybe if you just did a couple days of research, you'd realize that there's something to that revolutionary idea that's possible with some additional work, but it's actually not as crazy as you thought if you had just done some more research on it. So to make sure you don't lose that innovative potential by just jumping to the easy idea, we can use a methodology here to take advantage of that potential. So what we do is we have everyone on the team vote based on 3 criteria. You vote for the ideas that you think are low-hanging fruit, we call them. Basically, low-hanging fruit is the fruit on the tree that you can reach easily, right? You don't need a ladder, you don't need any tools, you can just grab it. So what are the ideas that are the most feasible? They seem to be very practical. Maybe you can prototype it today. If it's a smartphone app, for example, it's very simple, very easy to make a smartphone app. Choose an idea that you're excited about. So one that maybe is related to your area, maybe your background, maybe you have a personal reason, but something that is really exciting for you personally. And then finally, choose one idea that might stretch your resources, but it could be a breakthrough. So again, this is a revolutionary idea. And so what we can have you guys do is have, a vote for one for each different category, and then you guys can see how the votes turn out on the map, the concept map, and then you decide which ideas from there you want to move forward in a very democratic way, at least as democratic as possible. So you get one vote, when you select your ideas, low-hanging fruit, one you're excited about and breakthrough, and then you can add up the total votes, and then you can move forward the top ideas. So we have done this in a session before, but we won't do this right now. Okay, now let's talk about the deliverable. So, and what I want you guys to do, and I actually want a slide on it next, but before we talk about what you're doing for the next 15 minutes, the deliverable, then Marcelo, let me know if you have feedback on this for December 26th,
Okay.
October 26th. What I'm proposing is that we have an 8-slide presentation by October 26th. And this presentation will be on your top need statement, okay? The one that you guys have decided is the one you want to focus on. And if you want feedback from me on that, send me some of your questions over the next few days. I'll be able to reply back to you guys, okay?
Okay.
So the first slide is, what is the need? Actually, I should take this back. There should be, let me change this. I'm going to make one more slide. Just make the need statement the first slide, okay? So, this first slide is just the need statement. What is your need statement, okay? Then slide 1 is, why is this a problem, okay? Why did you guys pick this need statement? This is the fundamentals, really. What are the problem fundamentals? What causes this problem? How big of a problem is it? How many people does it affect? What are the downstream effects of it? Why is it important is the question. So why is it a problem? Why is it important? Let me add that here. Okay, then number 2, what are the existing emerging solutions? So you guys, this should be familiar from my presentation earlier. This is basically the need specification, right? Who are the key stakeholders and how are they affected by it? So who makes decisions related to this? Who's affected by this need? And what and how? And so you kind of want to go through the whole flow of the stakeholder. What is the market analysis? So again, what is the economic cost? What's the current markets for the existing solutions? How much money is spent trying to solve this need today? And then we want to see your need criteria. So again, that's 6 to 8 total criteria across must-haves and nice-to-haves. So maybe 4 each, 4 must-haves, 4 nice-to-haves. What are the quantitative criteria? Ideally, you should have why. Why did you select 50%, for example? Why did you select the criteria the way you selected them to be? And then we want to see your top solution concept from brainstorming. So this doesn't have to be anything developed, just the concept. What you guys are going to have brainstorming next, and we're going to have you practice, and hopefully you'll do more brainstorms over the next 2 weeks. But we're going to want you guys to think about your top solution concept from brainstorming. Just a description of the concept, maybe a drawing, a diagram, whatever the concept may be, however best way to present that. And then we want to see some rationale. Why did you pick this as your top solution? Why would it be better than existing solutions? And then lastly, we want to see what you think are the next steps. Either to research the need, maybe you want to do more need validation, and the solution. What do you have to do next for the solution? And that's going to probably involve some kind of prototyping, but that's for the next step. So we just want to have a summary of what you think the next steps are. So we're going to give you guys 10 minutes to present. And you'll get live feedback from Professor Pilanetto and the rest of the people there. But for Ross and myself, we may video record it in case we can't do live feedback. But we should, I should be able to do live feedback, but just in case, we'll have we'll video record it just to share amongst some folks here, and we'll be able to give you feedback on your guys' need specifications. Any questions on this?
No, perfect.
Okay, great. So, what I want to see for the next hour, and Marcelo, hopefully you can help with this if this is possible. And the timing here is not that important, but I want to see you guys do a brainstorm with one of your needs. Doesn't have to be your final need yet, but if you know what your final need is, that's even better to do it on your final need. But at least do it on one of your top needs. Do a brainstorming session over the next, maybe do them, and the main thing here is like, it's going to be more effective if you do it in chunks. So you do a 12-minute brainstorm, time it, 12 minutes. Then take 8 minutes to vote on the best ideas. Then do it again, do another brainstorm. Either do it again on the same need or do a different one, different aspect of the need. Maybe like I showed you a diagram, maybe it's a different part of the need, but it's the same need overall. And then again, concept voting again for 8 minutes. Then spend some time kind of synthesizing and what you learned from the brainstorming and what you developed in your deliverable. So again, the rules are here. I recommend putting them up on the board or writing them down somewhere on the board so you guys can all see them. And have fun, most importantly. So any questions on this?
No, right. You gave the right prescription here for the job.
Okay, perfect. Great. Well, thank you guys. Any questions in general? Any general questions?
Ravi, do they need to point out what are the main statements they already sent to you, or are you just gonna pick up 3 of the best and comment on them on the next few days?
Well, so if you guys can send me, so you guys sent me 10 need statements before. Now if you guys can send me your top 3 need statements, because there may have been some changes since the last visits.
Yeah.
Send me your top 3 need statements sometime today, and I'll be able to give you guys feedback by tomorrow on that.
Okay. I'll talk to them and see if that's possible. We have I need to ask you this. We're kind of really tired because we have this 5-hour trip to the swimming farm at the swine farm, as you saw in the pictures, and we only have half of the class here. What I want to propose to the group, because the brainstorming activity, it's one of the most important, and if we conduct this right now, almost half of the group is not on the classroom anymore. So I was thinking to propose to them an alternative schedule so they can brainstorming. The groups will brainstorming at the moment they figure out it's better for them. And do you think that it's useful to brainstorming all groups together, or each group can meet at the bar or at the church and brainstorm by themselves? And maybe record the brainstorming and bring it to us. What do you think about it?
Yeah, they can brainstorm on their own, absolutely. And they don't have to record it, Marcel, unless you want to see it. But as long as they should brainstorm as many times as they can on their own. And hopefully they can find time to do that, because it's going to be, the one we were going to do today was mainly just to have them practice it. But I agree, they don't have to do it together, all together.
Okay.
But if they wanted to do it, if they have questions while they brainstorm, what you guys should do is just send us a WhatsApp.
Okay.
And if you have any questions on the brain, because one of the reasons why we have the brainstorming class is just if they have questions, they can ask us if they're doing something, or if they have, about the process, right?
Okay.
But if they do it on their own, we won't be there to give them, guidance. So if you guys have questions while you're brainstorming on your own time, just send us a message on WhatsApp and we can help as quickly as I can. I'm pretty quick about WhatsApp. Marcella knows. I'm pretty responsive on WhatsApp. So just send a message and say, hey, we are kind of stuck on something, or we're arguing about something, or can you give, I can share with you my own experience. And I think the key thing here is there's no one way to do this. This is just a kind of a recommendation. Really what we're hoping to do is empower you guys to do it the way that works best for you, and give you some best practices that will help. So ultimately, there's no prescription here. It's mostly just a recommendation and some guidance, and then if you guys have questions, we have people that have experience that can help. So I think I'll leave it there, Marcella, and I'll let you guys all go home after the long day. I saw the videos about the farm and then the wastewater treatment plant yesterday. So pretty amazing experience. I'd love to hear. I can't wait to hear more about the specifics. Hopefully by next session.
Okay, great, Javi. I'm gonna join you in the WhatsApp group that we have all the fellows in, so they can chat with you. And maybe one of their needs or the question will be common to most of the group, so I think that will work fine.
Yeah, that's fine. And if they want to message me separately, they can do that as well. You'll have my number from the group, and I can either be in the group or you can just message me. Sometimes if you guys have groups in your own WhatsApp, if you guys create a WhatsApp group for your own team, do you want to add me to that? And I'm happy to be added to that as well.
Yeah, that would be better. That would work better, I guess. Okay,
Either way, we'll do all of it. So thank you guys, appreciate it, and good luck this week.
Thank you very much, Javi. We'll keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Então assim, pessoal, eu acho que, na minha opinião, é contraproducente a gente fazer o brainstorming agora, não só pelo cansaço, mas especialmente porque metade da turma está aqui. Então vocês peguem os colegas de vocês que não foram, que a maioria das pessoas que estão aqui foram na viagem,